All right, happy Saturday. Wanted to get back on here and give everyone an update on installing our septic system at our property. So when the health inspector comes out, he will mark a benchmark, and in this case they use the tree. And our septic system has to sit 40 inches below this marker, which is flagged out there as the first flag. Then health inspector marked for the permit. So from there, everything should be flat and level. I question this, and a lot of people might question this. When you go to install your septic system, you want everything level, which kind of defies gravity of draining going down. The septic system is actually not meant for draining rather than leaching and absorbing the water. So if the water is running downhill, it's moving and it's going to stir up the sand and the sediment and everything. So your tank, your header, and your drain field should all be level. They will let a little bit of a drop, but they don't like it very much because then the water speeds up and washes away the underground alignment. So the inlet of your septic is actually higher than your outlet, and that's what creates it from not backing up in that. Now your input, you do want it at an angle, and you can check your local code requirements on what that is. But first, to get the elevation, my neighbor's awesome. He borrowed me his laser Acculine, which goes over in a pulse to this thing, and it beeps when it's lined up, and I'll show you in a minute. So what you do is you set that up, and then you measure from the benchmark onto where it beeps, and you get your measurements. Now I can tell you from going through the education system in America that I know the circumference of angles, hypotenuse, you name it, the rotation of the earth. If a meteor enters the atmosphere at 250 miles per hour and the earth is traveling and rotating at a mile per hour, where will it hit? But for the life of us, we couldn't get our measurements on the first time, second time, third time, fourth time. Once we got our shoes off and counted everything and finally counted our toes and fingers, we got it right. So let me show you what that looks like. We'll walk over here. I think if we had coffee, we would have gotten it right the first time. So again, here's your Acculine Pro, and it's got the model number if you're interested. And then you turn it on by hitting the H. Oh, first you got to unlock the mechanism by turning this. Always want to keep it locked so it doesn't damage when you're moving it. Then you go ahead and hit H, and then P for pulse. Once you have that on, we'll turn our device on, and you can hear when you're in line with it. So if I walk over here to the flag, this is 40 inches below my benchmark. You can see I cleaned out the ground here. When you stick it on there, it'll tell you you're good. And let's look real close here without blocking the radar. It'll tell you if you need to go up or if you need to go down, and when you're green. So that helps you do that. So when I brought in the dirt to make this level, you go to any area and you'll stick it in there, and if it doesn't beat, you're not level. So then you lift up, see if you need to go up, nothing. Then you go down. Okay, here's a better example. I was actually standing in line with the laser. So in this case, you can see it's not beeping. I lift it up a little. I need to add a little bit more dirt there. Go down. You know you're not right. And you can look and watch it as you lift or drop it. So you want to go to a lot of different areas on your drain field and check the level. See, that's right on. Usually when it's beeping like that, it's going from up, down, up, down, up, down, because it's that accurate, just depending on how straight you're holding the pole. So if you've ever put together the Infiltrator Q4s, they're designed where the sand can't enter it. You put the sand over it. You have the header that goes into it. Again, that has to be completely level so it divides the water out equally. And then you connect these chambers on one after another. So I had to call the health inspector on the permit because I couldn't figure out a couple things. One is, I already discussed on the level. The other is, these things snap together, and you can see at the ends how they snap together and fit in. So as you assemble them, they hold each other together. And you can also pivot these a little bit, side to side, depending on how you're running your drain field. Just want to make sure you're 24 inches between the two on each one of these. So while I walk over here and get the header, I'll tell you something. Living out in the country, the permits and building department and health inspector are so much more helpful than in the city. You actually get to talk to a live person. He actually tells you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. It's very helpful. You don't just get put on hold or get a receptionist that tells you they'll call you back and they never do. And they want to charge you a fine for doing it wrong when you do it wrong. So in fact, when we went to the DMV to change our license out in the country, we needed 2 proof of residency bills, and we didn't have any. So I took a crayon and drew a picture and our address on it, and they accepted it. So it's pretty nice out here. It's pretty cool. But I got this end cap, and the end cap would not latch in on the inlet. So when I talked to the inspector, he said, yeah, every contractor calls us about that. So let me show you. It fits on the other side, but this says inlet end. So when I go to put this on, you can see there's no way to snap it together. It just doesn't work. So I called him about that and said, was I supposed to buy an end cap and an end cap? I thought they were the same. He says, actually, everyone calls him about that. So if you guys are using the Infiltrator Q4, you put it on top like this, on this side. See how that goes? And you can put a screw in there if you want. Inspector says dirt works well. So I went ahead and put the dirt on it, packed it down, and you can see it goes together well. On the end, it does latch on, and then we'll tie the ends together, and I'll update you later on how to do that. So the quick takeaway if you're putting an Infiltrator system in is level. You don't want your outlet to run right into a chamber because it won't disperse it fairly across the other chambers. You want to borrow your neighbor's quick level with a laser. Have good neighbors. That really helps. Get a lot of good advice. Put your tank level. Set it at level. It doesn't need to go to a slant. On the outlet of the septic, you have what's called a filter. And you pull this out, and that keeps anything from going into the leach field, drain field, without clogging it up. And it doesn't go all the way to the bottom because the water will fill up somewhere around here. The top layer will be grease from eating all the bacon you eat, and the bottom part will be all your poop. And the middle is the water that's digested down by the enzymes. And you can see today's have chambers to separate the inlet and outlet to hold some of the sludge away. So if we walk into the inlet, it's the same thing. It goes down, comes in your tank, and you only want to go down 1/3 of the liquid level of the tank. And that's so the water flying in doesn't stir up the sludge on the bottom, and then bring it back up to the surface. And then also the grease will be up here, not getting impacted on. If you were to just come in and throw the water, it would stir the grease into the water, which could clog your drain field. So looking in, the inspector said I could already connect it even though it's not covered and completed. Again, they're very friendly out here. So he said it would probably take me 6 months to fill it up anyways, before it starts going out to the leach field. Obviously, he doesn't know my bathroom habits. We put a little bit of yummy sauce in there already, if you're familiar with hibachi. And I connected the pipes. So for now, I connected our septic system using the RV. This is temporary because we're just building the house. This is not going to be full-time. The septic system is for our eventual house. So if you were to really do this where you're going to stay here a long time, you'd probably use regular pipe there, PVC, instead of this cheap stuff. But since we're building, I figure we'll only be using this for 10 to 15 years when I get the house done. So I didn't want to put anything permanent